So just remind me, because I know this sounds like we've had a long conversation about this, but it's just the nature of my brain works. Um, my wife has to write everything down for me at home on lists, and if she doesn't, I forget. It's just the way I work. And so I don't know if y'all haven't seen this yet, but in fact, well, no, I'll have it connected. But I want to show you guys just so you know how I work, like how I think. Um, so when I tell you sometimes after class, I'll say, make sure you email me what we just talked about. There's a real big reason for that, but let's see. I just want you all to be fully aware of this. So let me see. And this will apply to everybody, not just the people I've been talking to. I blanked it out, I think. Yeah. It's not going to come on when I hit blank. So this right here is my classes broken down into week by day, like week 1, day 1, do this, week 1, day 2, do this, week 2, day 1, do this, and it's so on and so forth all the way to the end of the semester. Because I work better having lists of things to do. So when I say, like, we've talked about this and we've had this discussion, and this is going to be true of everybody, I will almost always say, well, email me that. It's because after we've had the conversation, it's not that I don't like you or anything. It's just that the conversation goes away. It leaves. And so I'll have everybody email me after we've talked about whatever we've talked about. And in your case, I'll have y'all stick around, and then y'all have to remind me, because I'll be like, wait, why are we here? And then you'll say, we were going to go downstairs. And I'll say, oh, yes, I remember having that conversation. Yes, we'll do that. And I know it sounds strange that somebody could operate and live that way, but it's my life. It's always been that way. I got it from my mom. She's the same way. We'll have talked about something 2 days ago, and she'll be like, I don't remember having that discussion. It's very strange. It's one of the reasons I'm so flexible with people, because it's hard not to be flexible. Now, Anthony, you had a question.
Yeah, how do you decide these?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, bring those notes out. I'll get those. Now, I'm going to take a picture, because sometimes it takes me a little while to get them back from people. But, yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
Oh, that's fine. I always use my own pen. It's an easy way to cut down on possible transmission during a pandemic. No, I'm not saying you have it. I'm not saying you have the coronavirus. I just always use my own pen. Oh, yes, we had 2 classes. Oh, that's great. I have a black pen that's running out of ink.
Mr. Nichols, I just come on Thursdays for both classes.
Do you have me on 1301 as well? On Thursday? Then, yep. It'll cut down on those connection trips, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I did that, other teachers are doing something different, but the reason I'm doing that is because I have recorded my lessons for, I just happen to be somebody who recorded his lessons for the last 3 years. And then the pandemic started, and I had lots and lots of material already recorded, which I may be using in the future weeks, especially since, well, I'll talk about that in a minute. But having all that extra material means that the other teachers I know that don't have that extra material, they're going to need resources and things like classrooms and technology, that if I was to take that and I know that I've got access to my own resources, that I would feel kind of guilty and wrong. So I decided to we had 2 options. We had put half of you in one classroom where you're watching me on a projector screen. Have y'all done that so far in some classes, where you're watching another teacher on a projector screen? Some have, some haven't. But my model, where it's just you come 1 day a week, and then the other information you get online, that's the model that I'm doing. And in our class, it's going to be very light in IRWS compared to, say, in 1301, where you may actually have to watch to, like, come to class and then watch a video. In some weeks, you'll have to do both. But in this class, I'll try to keep it light, where everything sort of happens on that 1 day. Other questions? So people in the last half of the alphabet from Juarez to Z. And I was going to try to work it out where Luna and Jackson, y'all could both come on the same day because you have the same other teacher. But I don't think I'm going to do that now because if y'all both just have me, I'll still have Jackson, you'll come on. You have me on IRWS and you'll have me on 1301. So you will come on Tuesdays and then you will come on Thursdays. That's how it'll work in the future weeks once after we've had that discussion. And I'll talk to you again and remind you again after we get y'all schedule switched. And I do apologize that took so long, like to talk about the schedule switching thing. But remember, if you have any question as well about stuff that regards you, I will always give that much attention. That's what this class is about. It's about figuring out all of our like individual issues and like the issues with papers and stuff that we're having in the other course and try to find a way to fix those. So I wanted to talk a little bit about first. Does anybody have other questions before we get started about stuff? Preferably school related. No, let's get going. So I had a change of idea for what I wanted to do for the narrative essay, and I don't really have time to change the. Let me tell you what I'm going to do first instead of leading up to it. I think it's going to be a better idea. I always do that. I'll like start giving the explanation, then say what I'm going to do. So we've all done, those who had this class, the syllabus and the syllabus quiz and the intro post, hopefully you've done, and that's all passed. That's the first page. From here on out, you'll go to weekly course content. In 1301, this is already fully built out. There wasn't much that I had on here the first week. I didn't even put the intro post in that first week thing. And there won't be a whole lot of content in this class. But on week 2, I have a summary of what we're doing this week, but I haven't added it in there yet because I wanted to talk about it first. Because I want people to show up and just start doing it. But actually, I think I might accidentally have it available in the course assignment folder. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I didn't mean to do that. So weekly course content. This week is going to work a little different than the future weeks. Because I want all of our assignments to be geared specifically to the stuff we're doing in 1301. And I want those assignments to also be like, I think super easy. And if it's not super easy, the whole goal of it's meant to make the other classwork easy. So that's why I've done what I've done. But it's just the question and 2 answer assignment and then the outline planning assignment. But I had an idea on the narrative essay because in this particular case, you can see I'm always going to include the essay due dates for the other class, the 1301. Like this one says in English 1301, Friday by 11:59 p.m. Essay 1 is due at midnight, right? So that's Friday 9:18. But I also have the due dates for the Q&2A, which is the question and answer thing, and the outline for the essay due Friday as well. And to me, that's just like button right up against. There's really no point in doing that. Like you can see in week 3, I assigned the next essay in 1301 class. And that's anytime you see those like purple assignments, that's going to be what that means is I'm assigning it in the other class. And then that's week 3. Week 4, is that so tiny you can't even see what I'm talking about?
It's a little blurry.
Yeah, the weird thing is I've gone through the projector, literally all of its settings. I spent about 15 minutes at the beginning of the semester doing that, like before we all came here, getting it as perfect as I could to clarity. And you wouldn't believe what the default settings were. And somebody came in and changed them back to the default and I had to go through all of my stuff again. It was a nightmare. But you can see in week 4, the Q&2A is due, the question and answer, and the outline planning is due that same Friday. But the paper itself is not due until the next week in week 5. So in 1301, you'll actually have submitted the question and answers and your outline before the paper is due. And I've actually was going to ask you guys, like, I might still keep the official due date as Friday on the outline plannings, but I thought it might make more sense if you're able to ask questions and get some answers back on a Friday and say then the I guess like the unofficial due date of the outline planning, like I'll still keep it on the syllabus. I'm not going to change it, but I really wouldn't have to have those until like the Tuesday of the following week. That way, it's like you get the question and answer, ask the questions you need to ask, then you can have the outline due on like Tuesdays, and then the essay itself will be due on Fridays. That way, it all kind of feeds in, kind of step by step. Does that sound a little better than having both the questions and the outline due at the same time? Because I know if I was a student, what I would do, I remember myself as a student. Like I know it, like probably most of the teachers you assume like, oh, you became a teacher, especially in college, because you loved school and you got after it. You were like that kid in class that everybody hated who was like, I know the answer, I know the answer. But while I was that kid, I was not the kind who got everything in like 3 days early. Usually I was like, how much time is it going to take me to write this? And I would figure it out, and I would do like some planning. I would write some notes down and stuff, and like basically get an idea of what I wanted my essay to be. And I would say, this will take me 3 hours to write. And then I would start writing at 8 p.m. on the night it was due. And then I would get done about 30 minutes before midnight, and I would submit it. And that was just how I worked as a. So I know if I had a Q&2A and an outline, I would be turning them in the same night, probably within 30 minutes of each other. And so I know if I was going to do that, then probably you would be tempted to do that as well. So I think it's going to be best to maybe have it Friday for the questions and then Tuesday for the outline. And you all seem to agree, so I think I'll do that.
Will this be on the computer, or it's going to be a sheet, or what?
Yeah, everything for the classes is going to be on the computer, and it's all going to be on Blackboard, which we're looking at now.
Okay.
What you'll see is in each one of these weeks, like on the weekly course content, if you look here at week 1, which is what we had last week, it told you there was a quiz due, and then like right beneath there was a quiz. And I could just show you right now. I meant to do this, but like let's pretend like I did this in the first week. But just about everybody did the intro post, so I didn't really have to. Course link, browse. There was the intro post. And so the syllabus quiz and the intro post, those were listed here in the things that you were supposed to do in that first week, so they will be like here. For future weeks, oh well, that didn't work out the way I wanted to. Future weeks, like on week 2, you would see, I can't post the actual 1301 essay assignment in this class, it won't let me do that. But you'll see the Q&2A assignment will be here, and then the outline planning assignment. But I think I'm going to move that outline planning assignment because you have to do an essay anyway. And I think what I'm actually going to do with this first outline, it's going to be the only outline that works this way, is to have you guys, after you've written your essay and submitted it, I'm going to have you write me an outline of the essay you've already written. So I want to see what your ability is to understand what an outline is first based on an essay you've already written instead. Then in the future essays, I'll have you write an outline before the essay. That just sounds confusing now that I say it out loud. While it is really inconvenient to turn in an outline literally right before your paper's due, I still think that's probably going to be the better, less confusing idea. Yeah, we'll do that.
So the due dates are still Friday, right?
Yeah, I'm not moving anything. So these will both still be due on Friday. But here's the thing: is I would suggest if you're like, if you're trying to work on the let me start over. I'm not a big guy who worries. I'm a big guy, but I'm not a guy who worries about things getting in exactly on time. If you need extra time with an assignment, I understand. So let's say you get questions posted and then it makes you think of something, and then you start working on your outline and you're like, oh, okay, this is actually kind of helping me plan the essay ahead of time. I need to spend more time with this because then I can just start writing afterwards. But you're around midnight and you run out of time. You're like, oh no. Well, I would much rather students turn it in like the next day or like the next day after that if they have work, and turn it in the way they feel it looks really good and they're like, I feel confident about this, than I would people trying to rush and get in something in that's like half done. Because I don't know, I don't feel like that's a good way of operating. I'd much rather people get their work done. So while the official due date, yeah, it's still going to be like Friday. It's like if you need extra time, you can take extra time.
Okay. Can we turn those in before?
Yeah, you can totally turn those in before. In fact, what I'll do now is I'll go ahead and add, just so it's there, so it's not difficult to find. I'll put a link to both, and I'll put descriptions in the link later, but I have the Q&2A, and I didn't want to post it until I at least mentioned it to you guys first. Oh no, but that means that the Thursday students are gonna see it and go, what's this?
Yes.
If I have anybody turn it in, I don't know. I guess I'll check in. If anybody turns it in, why am I keep doing this? I just go up here to the course link. I'm trying to talk and do something else at the same time. I one time tried to talk and chew gum at the same time and I tripped. That's the joke. I didn't. That's the old man's phrase where you can't do two things at once and talk and chew gum. Well, now what happened? Oh, apparently I found out that I found out the other day that slashes in a title really screw up its ability to figure out what your default name is. So if you have to manually type outline planning, even though that's what the original assignment's called. So that's where, and most of my assignments will have extensive descriptions on them. So on this one, oh, somebody's already done it. Oh, I didn't mean to out you. My bad. I didn't realize anybody had done it yet. So, yeah, I knew somebody would find it. I was like, if I leave it here open, somebody's. This one's really simple. It says click the Q&2A link above. You'll click create thread when you get there. So there's supposed to be a button that says create thread. In fact, let's go under Magnus Baraka and we'll see that. Remember, when you go to Blackboard, student ID, 8-digit birth date. Oh, and I had somebody ask a question about the information form in this class. They're like, hey, I couldn't find where to turn in the information form. In this class, there is no information form, only in 1301. There is, however, that question on the information form that asks, are you also enrolled in IRWS 0302? And you would just check yes, and then I would know that all the people who are in IRWS. Now, for you two who haven't gone into the 1301 class yet, you'll see that, and I'll of course give you lots of extra time to get those little assignments done first, extra time on the essays, because you've been kind of dealt a really bad hand, which is a metaphor for things didn't work out well for you yet. I don't know how many of my metaphors I use are really like old people metaphors, because I realize like a lot of y'all are starting to skew younger, so I will often clarify. But when you see those assignments in 1301, any questions you have, ask me, like, when do I need to get this in? Just take your time getting them in. I'm more worried about the essays than I am the little baby assignments, but yeah, you'll still need to get those done. So let's see. I'm gonna go to IRWS so you can see what it looks like more from his perspective. Week 2. So now the assignments are there. He's going to click here, and then you'll see it says create thread, because that was what it said to do. I'll add the description down below this link so that that's there as well, but the description here is click the Q&2A link above, click create thread, and then it crossed out the first step because it's already done. And it says in the subject box, type your name. In the body of the post, type a question you have about the essay assignment. It doesn't necessarily matter what the question is, as long as you're trying to find information that will help you do better on the assignment or understand it more clearly. It can even be about the program you're using to type it, or does anybody know how to submit it? It doesn't really matter what that question is. And submit your question to the discussion forum by clicking submit. So you could create thread. It says to put your name. So my fake student's name is Magnus Baraka. And then you say something like, and I will always come when I grade the assignments, I'll answer those questions directly, but I'd like you all to try to answer each other's questions. That's why I have you doing 2 answers each. so that you can engage with other people's questions. So I'll say something like, does anybody have any idea how long the paper for English 1301 has to be? That's it. That is literally all you have to do. And then you hit submit. And then I go, oh, look, I'm a student and I need stuff to reply to. Now I can see everybody else's post because I made mine. So I'm going to go here. What was your last name? Cruz? Okay, yeah, come on. I'll get you down later as having come in. And I'll go through the post and I'll look and I'll say, does anybody have any idea how long this has to be? And I'll be like, I remember that. I do remember that. I saw that. So I say, I just looked at the assignment sheet and it said we have to make it 800 words. But then somebody else comes along. Let's pretend I've gone to another thread and somebody answered a question and I go, wait a minute, that's not right. I'll say like, let me reply to that actually. And I say, okay, actually, and I don't mean to be a jerk here, I think it's 600 to 800 words. And he said that it was only about 2 pages double spaced. And then maybe somebody else will come along and they'll see this and they'll go, well, wait a minute. And at this point, like if I'm Magnus Baraka, let's pretend actually for a second that these are 3 separate posts I've gone to, okay? This is the one I posted, and I go, okay, let me go try to answer some other people's. And I go to this other post about this, and I say, okay, well, I looked at the assignment sheet. It says 800 words. And I did my best to answer that question. Then I go and find another post, and let's pretend that other post is this one. And so I've got to do my second answer. And I say, well, actually, I don't mean to be a jerk. I think it's 600 to 800 words. It says pretend like he's not replying to himself is what I'm saying. These are all 3 separate. And it's about 2 pages double space. So at this point, I've done all I have to do. I've done a question. I've tried to answer 2 people's questions. Now, what I would say is, while it might seem like, well, if that guy got it wrong, how useful is this? You might be thinking, you're like, he got the wrong answer. I actually don't think that that's a bad thing. That sometimes we get wrong answers. Just know that when I grade your post, I will be providing the answer to your question. And I'll look at the 2 people's answers that they gave and tell you whether those answers are accurate. One thing I won't be able to do is reply to those other people about the wrong answers and say, actually, you're wrong about the answer you gave to this person. I can't do that. But I will give you the answer to the question that you seek. So you will have sort of engaged with it, thought about it. People are giving you some possible wrong answers. You're like, okay, let's see what the teacher says. I personally think that that's a really important type of dialogue to have in society today. I feel like it's important to have like conversations about things and engage with stuff. I was listening to a podcast this morning where they said that like, yeah, that's just something I want to talk about. That's not relevant. I'm going to stop myself there. But basically, people don't engage as much as they used to. We get online and we do a lot of online engagement, but we don't engage face-to-face as often as we used to. And that's a little bit of an issue. I think even if we're giving each other wrong information, the engagement is important, because I think that lack of engagement is the reason things have sort of happened. Like, and I apologize if this is you, but you should eventually get past this mistaken notion. But like, the reason we have people like anti-vaxxers these days is because people used to ask their mom, like, should I really put needles into my kid? And the mom would say, I don't know, I did it with you guys. And you're like, well, like, what? Why aren't you worried? And she said, I don't know, I just went and asked the doctor, and he said, like, what to do. And so She's like, why don't you just go ask the family doctor? And so the girl would go to the family doctor, and she'd say, doctor, what? And he would go through the whole explanation of how vaccinations work and what they do and why they're not bad. And she'd say, okay, I feel a lot better after having that discussion. And then you do the vaccination. These days, somebody feels like, oh, I'm not so sure if I want to do vaccinations. They hop onto Google and they search and they say, are vaccinations dangerous? And they phrase it in that way.
It's terrible.
And then the thing is, there's been people who've, I don't know if it's studies or just the people from Google have talked about this, but when we all go to Google and we ask a question and get an answer back, I don't know if you know this, but it doesn't give everyone the same answer. Every single person who goes to Google and asks a question, it depends on your search history what it shows you. So if you are always skeptical when you ask questions about vaccinations, it's going to tend to give you answers that align with that skepticism.
Because of what you click, like the algorithm, right?
Yeah, like it's trying to, almost all websites are trying to show you what they think you want to see.
Even Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook's the worst about it. But so as a result of that, if somebody gets on and they say, are vaccinations dangerous? It's going to start showing her the vaccine dangerous websites, and she'll find a lot of people who think like her, and everybody will be like, well, I think this too, and I think it too, and blah, 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 and there's studies, and people are talking about studies, and nobody's ever actually found any. And like the science states, and then there's no science, it's just them talking. And all of that would have been solved back in the day by going to an actual expert, a doctor, and asking them a question. These days, it's what's called an echo chamber. You go into a room where everybody already thinks like you, and you start shouting, and it just fills up with everybody's opinions that all agree already. And I think it's important that we have dialogue with people who sometimes might not be right, or sometimes, it's just not somebody who just already knows the answers all the time. We're actually having a discussion. I think it's important to maintain that aspect of society we used to have, instead of just, I feel like students are always having trouble engaging with classes anyway, because when you ask a question, it's not immediate. Whereas Google almost always is immediate. You're like, well, I need to answer a question. It's like, there, done. And sorry, that was my philosophical reasoning behind this. Now at the outline assignment, well, let's actually go here to the weekly course content folder, because that's where I put it, right? With the outline assignment, I want you doing something like, I don't have a sample assignment yet. I mean, I kind of do, but I don't really. It's something like this. This is an outline that I had before. It's more of a formal outline, but it's got, I don't know if you heard me yet in the 1301 class say that I really don't think that essays should be intro, 1, 2, 3, conclusion. You may have had teachers in high school who told you that kind of thing, but I don't think that's true. You need to look at whatever an essay is asking you to do, figure out the needs of that essay, and then design the body paragraphs around the needs of the essay. So in this particular case, on our narrative essay assignment, different assignments will have different needs. So I'm going to go over here real quick to the 1301 course. I'm realizing it might actually be useful if you're working on an IRWS assignment to be able to click the assignment at least. You can't submit it, but maybe you could have the assignment itself in IRWS. So if I go here to week 2, and it says it's going to be due, and then the assignment is in here in PDF form, yes. So the 1301 assignment has you write a narrative account of one of these first experiences and show how you changed significantly from before the experience to afterwards. So you're going to be telling a story about something that happened to you, and show how you changed significantly from before that experience to afterward. Now I go through in detail on the English 1301 video, giving out the assignment, talking about each one of the topics, and reading through the sample essay. I don't know that I did that in the second day of the week last week, did I? In the classes? Did I do that on Thursday for the English 1301 students who had it? Did I talk about the essay? Yeah, so that was something you could only get on the video for that week. So you're getting it now. Those of you who are in IRWS. But some of them, it's like first experience with violence, danger, or adversity. Your first time in an unfamiliar surrounding, like a new place. First encounter with someone whose culture was very different from your own. First experience with a serious illness or death of someone close to you. First experience being significantly lied to. And that's not like, your brother stole your toy and said he didn't, but, something big. First experience being let down by someone you truly respected, or your first time being used by someone for their own selfish gain. And those are different topics you can choose between. Almost every essay I have, you'll have choices like that. But I don't know if you can tell, but each one of these has different needs for how many paragraphs it's going to have. I feel like you have to do more stuff in a paper about your first experience with a serious illness or death of someone close to you. Now, on the second page of the assignment, I have what I always call a cheat sheet that talks about things that must be done. So on topic D, it says, really, in that case where you're talking about your first experience with a serious illness or death of someone close to you, you need to show how that person is or was important to you. So you're going to have to introduce the concept of death in the paper. Then you're going to have to go through why that person was really important to you. That might add paragraphs to that essay that won't be there in one like unfamiliar surrounding. Actually, no, it does require you to describe your usual physical surroundings. Sometimes there's some sort of contrast with how you were before. And I know that on the second essay for sure, there's one topic that people often choose where it asks you to identify the major cause of some problem, and then based on your identification of the cause, formulate some specific solutions for the problem. And that requires you to identify what the cause is and then do about 3 or 4 solutions to it. So that's going to be at least 5 body paragraphs. So not always will essays follow this 3-paragraph model in the middle. Sometimes there'll be more, sometimes less. Nor are the number of support sentences always the same. Paragraphs can have anywhere between 3 and 4 to like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 sentences, depending on the need. And if I feel like a paragraph's getting a little lengthy, I'll let you know when you submit it. But that's roughly what an outline looks like. Now, I found this old... I guess I just did this for fun. Like, I don't really know. Like, I'm not really 100% sure. But I took one of the topics and I planned out how to write it, just, I guess, to show, I think, IRWS students in case I ever had the class again. I honestly think that's the whole reason I did it. But, so I had, like, the essay 1. And I'll show you kind of how I approach getting to what was the eventual outline. I can't remember if this story is real or not, or if I made it up. So that I can't attest to. I guess we'll see along the way. If I start crying, it's probably something that really happened to me. Okay. There was no laughter there, so y'all really think it's possible I might cry? I mean, I guess it's possible. I cried in Coco, so.
So can we make up a story?
I'm gonna say I want real stories. I'm also gonna say I have no idea what your lives are really like. I will say that it's probably best not to choose, if you did write a story and you're like, well, this didn't 100% happen this way. It'd be really bad if you, for example, said something like, yeah, there was this time when I was having these real bad problems of, well, let's not go with that topic. That's a bit sensitive.
So you do want it to be real?
Yeah, I think it's easy. Here's the thing. I think it's easiest to write if it is real. I have had a problem with students before who, and what I was basically about to do was an example of somebody making up a story, but it turned out they were making up a story based on a story they saw in like a movie, and then I had seen the same movie.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, this is literally the plot of this movie, and I was like, yeah, that's not going to work. So it's okay. Like, I had one student one time, he told me, I asked him, it was one of my dual credit students, and he wrote this essay, and I said, well, the problem here, I said, this is a pretty good essay. The only problem is, like, when you say you changed from this football injury and having that experience, you don't really show anything different after the experience. In fact, I said, you seem not to be in the essay really all that emotionally rocked by the fact that you had this major football injury. and thinking about like what it's going to do to like the future of your career. And you said you wanted to be a professional football player. And I said, so like, what emotions were you actually going through at the time? And did you literally just take it in stride? And he goes, well, I kind of made the whole situation up. I've never played football. And I was like, oh. I was like, at least sounded like you were being real, even if it wasn't doing all the stuff I wanted. So I was like, well, that's even easier. Make up the emotions. Like I just told him, like, make it up. Because it's all about, for me, like having a good essay. I've noticed that people tend to do a lot better when they write about something that really happened to them.
Are all of our essays going to be like that?
No.
Okay, all right.
In fact, this is the only essay written about yourself.
Oh, thank God.
Every essay after this is a third person, written from the outside perspective kind of essay,
All right.
where you're talking about something that's going on in the world or something that happens to people, some problem. But this is the only one where you're talking about yourself specifically. So when I did the notes for this paper, I thought first about the assignment. It's like I said or I guess you will see in the next class. I talk about how it's very important when planning for an assignment, first of all, to just understand the assignment. So when I saw write a narrative account of one of these first experiences and show how you changed significantly from before the experience to afterward, about the worst I had to deal with was my parents were not full on poor, but like relatively poor. Like we lived out in the country, so it wasn't like we had a neighborhood. But I mean, we lived in a single wide mobile home, and the floor was rotting through, and Dad had to put down plywood and stuff. Typical like living in the country poor stuff. But there wasn't a whole lot of actual adversity I had to deal with besides just not having a whole lot. We still were able to like eat and stuff generally. I mean, the food sucked, but I didn't know that until I got older and started eating real food. And I was like, so everybody doesn't just eat buttered noodles for every meal? Apparently not. So, well, I mean, sometimes we had more, but Mom was a terrible cook. Sorry, Mom, if you ever see this. But wasn't a whole lot of like really bad adversity I had to deal with, except I was always weird in school, I think. So is that what I went with, I assume? Trying to be popular senior year of high school. Oh yeah, I remember that. But I wasn't rich or a child of a college professor, so we didn't come from culture or money. So that was in commerce. Like if you were either a kid of a college professor or rich, or you weren't popular, or like your parent worked for the school or something. And so I was like, well, how did I change? So really, interestingly, I think this is the best idea. If the whole purpose of the essay is showing how you changed, I looked for an experience first that I changed from. I think it's more important to figure out what my purpose of the essay is and start there. Like, what is the teacher trying to get me to get out of it? And start with that. So in this case, I went, okay, well, I've got to show how I changed. So what's an experience that changed me? And I was like, well, I wanted to be popular senior year. Just be comfortable with yourself. Never try to be popular. I say that in like the age of streaming and influencers.
So you chose adversity.
I chose adversity because it's about the best I could deal with. I had a great grandma who had died, but I didn't know her. She was just, apparently she was great, because it said great grandma. But she's old. I didn't really know her that well. But so I said, like, I try to be popular, but it says now I'm honest with myself, comfortable with who I am in a way that actually gives me more freedom to be who I am and honest with myself and what I want out of life. Well, that's very repetitive, but it's just notes, so it doesn't matter. So change and showing it. How did I change? Let's see. Are there ways I can show? And I just started brainstorming. I wrote, I became an English major later, choosing my career. Stopped caring what people thought about me to a point. Became more compassionate for those who consider themselves to be others or on the outside. And I was honest with myself about music as a major and how I honestly didn't want that. Well, that sounds like forcing a lot into a paper. But I don't think I could ever fit the music stuff in there. Let's see what I did. This is so long ago, I have no idea what I wrote. So in my intro, I was like, okay, so I need to introduce this situation of trying to become popular, I guess, and then having it not work out. I'd always followed the crowd and felt emboldened by getting 4th chair all-state trumpet senior year. Oh, yeah, I did pretty good that year. Made me feel like I was some big thing. See, I'm just making notes for myself. This is not meant to actually go in my paper. So I'm like, I felt like I was some big thing. I really did. I was like, people are going to love me now. I became 4th chair all-state trumpet. Because that's what makes you popular in high school, right? They're like, whoa, you can play a trumpet? Really? Like, nobody cares. And I thought, hey, I could become popular. Yeah, right. Always had been the weird kid in school, and accomplishing something made me feel like I could do anything. So I tried. Granted, notice how this doesn't look at anything like an intro, does it? No, it doesn't look like an introduction to a paper at all. And this is, by the way, all leading to show you how I came up with an outline. I was just notes and notes and notes and notes, and then eventually came up with an outline. So I was like, okay, let me try to maybe put this in a more formal way. Always had been the weird kid, and let's see, always followed the crowd, felt emboldened, and then thought I could become popular. So that's how I thought that I would be implying that later I did not become popular by saying, so I thought I could become popular, and that's how it ended my introduction. Now, what's the experience itself? Oh, that's just too many notes. But I made a whole lot of notes about the experience itself, realized, man, that's kind of long. And then the change. So what is the change I went through? Is that after this, I thought the only change I've been through was a little bit of disappointment that I realized what I'd done wasn't going to change how people perceive me, that I wouldn't be popular no matter how hard I tried. But that was freeing in a way I hadn't really considered originally. So the eventual outline I actually came up with for the paper was this. I basically wrote down everything that happened to me, and I knew it had to proceed chronologically. So I kind of tried to outline it in that way. So my intro, it's kind of hard to see, but it's just so it's tiny. I love how you're like taking a picture of my life. It's totally cool. You can do that, but it's funny that I think this really did happen to me. Assuming when I go through here, we'll see. Do exactly what you're doing. I'm not saying don't do it. I just thought it was kind of funny. I used to do the exact same. That's how I took note, because when teachers were moving through PowerPoints so quick, I was just like, it was the best way to do it, especially at work PowerPoints. When I would go to work meetings, people were like flipping through slides really fast because everybody was trying to get to lunch. So in the intro, I wanted to just introduce the idea that I used to be nerdy, but I wanted to be popular. Used to be nerdy, whatever. Hint at the thesis, and we're going to talk about thesis in the next class, 1301. But a thesis is the point that your paper is trying to make. So my hint was at the thesis, how that was unnecessary trying to be popular, but it did show me who I am, so it was useful to me. And then narrate the experience and say everything was fine at first. So start off with a sentence saying, I knew I wanted to be popular. Narrate the experience and how it was fine at first. Narrate the embarrassing night. So at the house, find the insulting stuff, quick car chase. Sounds more exciting than it is. End paragraph with how they looked disappointed and I returned. Disappointed that I had returned. Reflection, description, change. So once I've gone through the experience, I want to start reflecting on it. So there's freedom to be me and myself, honest with myself, especially when I went off to college and changed majors. Oh, I did fit that in. That's crazy. Eventually more compassion of those who feel on the outside. Eventually more of those who feel on the outside. I have no idea what that means, but it's just notes for me. And then I showed the change. So I became an English major. I constantly make fun of myself in class, which I'm sure I've done at least 10 times today. Try to be as honest as possible with students, understanding with my family and friends of all situations. And so conclusion, honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm glad I was able to see myself for exactly who I am. I actually think that would have ended up being a pretty good paper. I think I actually wrote it. Did I write it? Did I open it? I opened what was the file right next to it. Yeah, now this, you do not have to write a paper this long, but I wrote a 4-page paper about myself because I just couldn't shut up. I'm an English major, so English teacher. But it was basically everything. And if I just summarize the story for you real quick so I don't have to read the whole damn thing, it was that I thought, hey, I'm going to be popular. And so I started going to my friend's house or what I thought were my friend's house. Like, they were the popular kids. I just started showing up because I had a friend who was popular and they would let me, like, come along. But apparently I was annoying. I didn't know how annoying. So one night they, like, a couple of the popular kids weren't there, but they came and, like, wrote crap on my car and, like, that shoe polish stuff. And then I saw it and was like, dadgummit, and I went and washed it off, and then I came back, and when I was sitting there waiting while I was parked, they came by and I saw who it was, and they said, he already went and washed it off, and he came back? Dang it. And I was like, what the? I was pissed. And so they turned around and drove off, and then my car was already running, but their truck was so big they couldn't hear it. And so I flipped my headlights and started chasing them. I would not recommend this. And then I chased, and then like I cut them off, and they turned around and ran off. So they knew I saw them. But I was like, screw this, I'm done. And I said, I'll just hang out with people I've always hung out with, the nerdy kids. And I was happy, and everything worked out fine. Oh, and my wife is hot. Like, check this out. Hold on. Look at my hot wife. Like, she's pretty good looking. Like, I'm not just talking like for me, objectively. Like, she would win contests with that face.
You already have 2 rooms?
Yeah, we already have. Well, this one's from a prior marriage.
Okay.
On
yours, with you?
Yeah.
Is that your daughter?
Yeah, that one's my daughter, and then that one's our daughter. But everything worked out just fine.
Look more like that Southern charm.
Yeah, my wife loves that. She's like, there's the people in Commerce who have this truck just out on their property, and I picked out all of our clothes because I'm very visual. No, I'm kidding. She did all of it. She picked everything out, and she was like, we're gonna go take photos, and I just show up. That's what it is to be a husband. You just show up to things. So sometimes. Let's see. So that was kind of how I approached an outline. Notice that on my outline, I would actually turn this in the way that it is. It doesn't have to be to the point where, it doesn't have to be like this. I would probably, if I had, wait, what happened? It died. Let's see, if I put it in like a Microsoft Word document, that's probably how most people are going to do it. I don't mind if you use PowerPoint, though, if that helps you better. I use PowerPoint because I think it's better for taking notes. Like if I'm using a Microsoft Word program, because I can put things anywhere I want. I can make pictures and add them if I wanted. I wouldn't put a picture in my essay, but if I just wanted like some visual representation so I could see things. But let me see if I can go with a numbered list or something on the left, paste it all in, and then I could just kind of work it up. Let's say I go with, this was the intro, tab, 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 tab.
So you want an organized,
tab.
nice outline, right? That's what
I want it like not just in order, but like in a way where you can say, well, this is what the paragraph is, and then here's the paragraph's about. Oh wait. Ah. Yeah, so that's basically from the other slide. But you see, I would be fine with, it doesn't have to be the numbered list. I don't know if it's going to keep it this way. It could be like bulleted list. It's just that that's the easiest way to like have tabs work out perfectly on Microsoft Word. I feel like it's a lot easier to do this kind of stuff outlining on PowerPoint from my experience, because you notice I could just, oh darn it, that's not what I meant. By the way, if you ever make a mistake and you're like, no, I made a mistake, what do I do? There's an undo button. You can hit Control-Z or just find the undo button. I think it's like up here. I can actually redo typing, so if I want to keep those 9s, or I can go back and change it back to what I did, made a mistake. But so, I don't know, I can move. See, notice how in this one I just moved, like, I was like, I want all the intro stuff over here, and I want the change stuff over here, but I never actually even got that far. I changed my mind and went to something else before I even was able to stop. This is basically like my actual notes process. This is how I create notes for like real papers, and sometimes I'll actually write by hand notes out, but I always end up having my final like draft of notes on a computer, and usually I start them on a computer now, since computers are so, I like the word ubiquitous, just means it's everywhere now. Like smartphones are ubiquitous, so are computers. They're just everywhere. So it's easier to do this kind of stuff. So an outline like that would be fine. An outline like this would be fine. You could do it on PowerPoint. You could do it on Word. I don't really care. I'm just looking to get some sort of outline of what you think your paper is going to be composed of. And you can see here, you can't even really tell what the story is. You're like, what the hell is car chase? But I don't have to be able to tell as the teacher like what the outline is pointing toward. If you know, that's fine. And then I just read the story later. Does yours have to follow this exact scenario, like where it's like narrate, reflection, showing, change, conclusion? No. Yours might be different. I still think you probably should have a paragraph set aside where you show how you changed, because that is going to be true of all the papers. But however many you need to narrate your experience is fine. And by the way, I have had some students ask before, and I think I addressed this in 1301, but I haven't addressed it here yet. So I want to make sure that I do. 600 to 800 words is the general range on this paper where people get A's. That's why I have that as the number of word count for this paper. Not the outline, the actual paper you'll end up writing. But students have asked me before, they'll get to like I did 4 pages. They'll get to like 1,200 words, 1,500 words, and say like, can I submit that? Because when people are talking about themselves, they tend to go on a long time. Some of them, they're like, I really just wanted to get this out. I use this as like a form of therapy. I'm like, that's fine. Now on future papers, the length matters a lot more. Like trying to stay close to that boundaries that I've set. But yeah, for now, like, it's fine if you end up going over. I'm not one of those teachers where it's like you're a letter grade off if you go over under like a little bit. I just don't understand that approach to teaching. One of the reasons I kind of wanted to see, I know this is really weird, but talking to you about how any of this stuff kind of would be okay for this outline and planning assignment. It could be as detailed as this with the PowerPoint. It could be as simple as the Microsoft Word thing I just showed you. I wanted to see what people gave me before I know this is how I've actually approached all essays in all classes. The very first time I assigned the narrative essay, I literally gave students nothing but this. That was it. But over time, I added all this stuff and this cheat sheet and a sample essay, because the more I've experienced the assignment, the more I have to include and realize that I want out of it. So I add rules as I go. So this telling you what I want as an outline and leaving it kind of open like that is by design at first. But I may, as I see students who are giving me an outline, I'm like, that's not really kind of what I'm looking for, and it's not really helping you write your papers, because I see the papers aren't turning out well either. Then I'll start adding kind of rules and notions to things as I go, and I might add an assignment sheet or take one of y'all's really good samples, ask if it's okay if I use it. Because, see, I gave you a sample, but I used to have sample stuff that was all written by me. But what I found over time is that students find other students' work that got good grades more useful than stuff I wrote. Because, I mean, there's no actual grade given to my stuff, and I wrote it myself. So I just feel like it's going to be best to try to, at some point, use a sample of somebody else's outline. But I will add, like, samples to that stuff as we go. Now, the Q&2A assignment, I'm pretty sure I know how that one's going to go, because I've had that work in another class before. I haven't done the outline assignment before. Now, does anybody have any questions about any of the stuff I've talked about, the 2 assignments that I mentioned that are supposed to be geared toward? Yes.
Yeah. How do you get the instructions out? Like instructions how to write the essay topics, like what you had before. How you get it out? I have a hard time.
Yeah, everybody who is in the IRWS, with the exception of Jackson and Linda, it'll happen afterwards. You have my class in Blackboard as well for English 1301. So what you'll do for the actual essay assignments that we're writing is you'll go over to English 1301, that class. And once you are there are 2 options. One, you can go to weekly course content, find the week that the assignment was assigned, like in week 1 was where I assigned essay 1, but week 2 is where it's due. and you could click there, and the assignment is attached. So it's the PDF that's attached right at the top underneath the points possible. Additionally, if you just want to go straight to the assignment, you don't have to go through weekly course content. You can go to all course assignments. And once you're in that folder, you go to major assignments like essays, presentations, all research right here. Click it, and then you'll actually see the assignment page pop up very first thing. Yeah. So there are two different ways in. I know that no matter what, the all course assignments folder will always work, but on, say, future folders, for example, if we go to like week 6 right now, if you look, there's nothing in there but the brief summary, and I'll be building those out over the next couple weeks. I think that I've decided that in this class, since it's more of a question answer format type class anyway, and I don't have any students who take this class completely online, what I'm probably going to do is just take both classes that week, create 2 different videos out of them, so there'll be this class video and the other class video. Let me put a marker in this. Were there other questions? I think I literally went on for like 20 minutes on one question. Okay, I think we've only got like 1 minute left anyway, so those of you who have me for 1301 next, I'll see you in 1301. Those of you who don't have me for 1301 technically, but you will later, go ahead and stick around. Otherwise, y'all have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you in 1301 when your time is come. And if you need to come ask me some questions, you can come ask me questions.